Among the many ancient texts that have stirred curiosity and debate, the Book of Jubilees stands out as a particularly intriguing case. Often referred to as the Little Genesis, it offers a retelling of the biblical stories found in Genesis and Exodus, but with its own distinctive voice and structure. This book, both ancient and mysterious, has long captivated scholars and believers, raising questions that remain relevant even today. The Book of Jubilees was not widely known for many centuries. It surfaced in fragmented forms across various ancient manuscripts and was largely absent from the religious canons that shaped Jewish and Christian traditions. Its status as a hidden text has fueled speculation about what it contains and why it was set aside, especially considering its bold reinterpretation of familiar sacred history. What sets Jubilees apart is not just its retelling of biblical events, but the depth and detail it brings. Its alternative title hints at its purpose, a companion or supplement to Genesis that seeks to clarify and expand upon key moments of early biblical history. Yet despite its close relationship to well-known scripture, it found itself excluded from the mainstream collections of holy books, raising the pressing question of what made it so controversial or unwelcome. The fascination surrounding this book is tied to its survival against the odds. Though it was marginalized and forgotten by many, it never disappeared entirely. Certain communities and scholars preserved its memory, keeping alive the possibility that it held deeper truths or insights yet to be fully understood. Its eventual rediscovery reignited discussions about its meaning and its place in the broader story of sacred writings. This video embarks on a journey to uncover the reasons behind the concealment of the Book of Jubilees. By tracing its history and examining the forces that shaped its fate, we seek to understand not only the story of one ancient manuscript, but also the larger patterns of inclusion and exclusion that have defined religious tradition across centuries. The Book of Jubilees stands apart from many other ancient writings because of its bold attempt to redefine the way sacred history was measured. At the heart of its unique vision lies a strict 364-day calendar, a structure that departs from the lunar-based calendar widely used in Jewish tradition. This rigid solar calendar presents the passage of time as orderly and precise, divided into exact weeks and cycles that repeat in perfect rhythm. According to the text, this system was divinely ordained and represented the true way to mark sacred time. This alternative calendar was not a small adjustment. It reshaped the entire biblical timeline, anchoring the events of Genesis and beyond within a framework of fixed cycles known as Jubilees. Each Jubilee spanned 49 years, and within these cycles, history unfolded according to a divine plan that emphasized patterns of restoration and renewal. Every major event, from creation to the covenants made with the patriarchs, was seen as part of this grand rhythm. By structuring time in this way, the Book of Jubilees offered a vision of history that was both ordered and deeply symbolic. However, this calendar stood in stark contrast to the calendar systems that were gradually adopted by Jewish and later Christian authorities. The traditional lunar calendar, which adjusted itself through periodic intercalations, became central to Jewish religious life, especially in determining the dates of festivals and holy days. The Christian tradition, too, developed its own systems for marking sacred time. In this context, the rigid solar calendar of Jubilees was seen not only as unusual, but potentially disruptive. It suggested that established religious practices were out of alignment with the true divine order, a claim that would have unsettled the authorities of the time. Beyond the mechanics of the calendar itself, the way the Book of Jubilees framed history through Jubilee cycles introduced a powerful reinterpretation of sacred history. These cycles were more than just units of time. They were deeply theological, emphasizing themes of liberation, justice, and divine faithfulness. Every cycle carried echoes of the command found in Leviticus 25, where the Jubilee year was a time of release and restoration. Jubilees took this principle and wove it into the fabric of all history, portraying the unfolding of time as a series of divinely appointed resets meant to realign humanity with God's will. This reimagining of time and history posed profound questions for religious communities. If the Book of Jubilees was correct in its chronology, what did that mean for existing religious observances and traditions? Were they flawed or incomplete? By challenging the prevailing understanding of sacred time, Jubilees placed itself at odds with the mainstream and opened the door to controversy. The insistence on a divinely mandated calendar and the framing of history through precise cycles may have been seen as too rigid, too radical, or simply too different to be fully embraced. The calendar and chronology of the Book of Jubilees were not merely technical details. They were a statement of faith and authority. By presenting its vision as the true divine order, the book implicitly questioned other interpretations and practices. This alone could explain part of the reason why religious leaders were cautious, if not resistant, to fully accepting it. The tension between the orderly, fixed vision of time in Jubilees and the more flexible, adaptive calendars of mainstream tradition highlights a deeper struggle over how to interpret divine will in the unfolding of history. In revisiting the unique timeline offered by the Book of Jubilees, we see a vision of time that is not only mathematical, but deeply spiritual. It invites readers to view history not as a random series of events, but as a carefully measured progression toward a divine purpose, where every year, every cycle, and every jubilee plays its part in the larger story of humanity's relationship with the Creator. One of the most striking features of the Book of Jubilees is its deep immersion in the world of angels and divine revelations. Unlike many other biblical texts that mention angels only occasionally, Jubilees weaves angelic presence into almost every part of its narrative. Angels in this book are not mere messengers delivering brief instructions. They are central figures, playing active roles in guiding, instructing, and even recording human history. This detailed angelology sets the book apart and reflects a worldview where the seen and unseen realms are closely connected. The text describes angels as mediators between God and humanity, acting as custodians of divine wisdom and executors of heavenly decrees. One of the key angelic figures is the Angel of the Presence, who is portrayed as a direct servant of God, entrusted with revealing sacred knowledge to chosen individuals. In Jubilees, it is this angel who recounts the history of creation and the unfolding of God's plan to Moses, offering a vision that expands far beyond what is found in the traditional Pentateuch. This emphasis on angelic revelation introduces readers to layers of hidden knowledge, often referred to as secret wisdom. The Book of Jubilees presents itself as more than just a historical record. It is a window into the cosmic order, where every earthly event mirrors deeper heavenly realities. The narrative suggests that there are truths reserved only for the faithful, truths that are guarded by angels and revealed through visions granted to prophets and patriarchs. This notion of secret wisdom added a mystical dimension that would have appealed to certain religious groups but unsettled others. In addition to the focus on angelic intermediaries, the Book of Jubilees hints at cosmic struggles and battles between good and evil forces. It portrays a universe where spiritual warfare is not a distant concept, but an active and ongoing reality. Angels not only guide and protect, but also engage in conflicts that shape the destiny of nations and individuals. This vivid portrayal of the cosmic stage blurs the lines between the physical and spiritual worlds, presenting a vision of reality that is dynamic, layered, and deeply infused with divine purpose. These mystical elements, angelology, visions, secret knowledge, and cosmic battles, place the Book of Jubilees at odds with later religious orthodoxy. As Judaism and Christianity developed more defined boundaries around acceptable doctrine, texts that ventured too deeply into speculative or esoteric teachings were often viewed with suspicion. The heavy emphasis on angels and heavenly secrets in Jubilees likely contributed to its marginalization, as religious leaders sought to preserve a more streamlined and accessible set of sacred writings. In many ways, the Book of Jubilees reflects a time when questions about the nature of the universe, the role of divine beings, and the hidden workings of God's plan were at the forefront of spiritual inquiry. Its rich tapestry of angelic interactions and mystical insights offers a glimpse into a world where heaven and earth were seen as intimately intertwined, and where understanding the visible required faith in the invisible. The Book of Jubilees distinguishes itself not only through its cosmic visions and angelic narratives, but also through its uncompromising stance on the law. From the earliest chapters, the text makes clear that the Mosaic Law is not simply a set of guidelines for the people of Israel, but a universal and eternal standard that governs all of creation. This legal framework is elevated to a position of supreme authority, one that binds humanity and, remarkably, even the angelic hosts. Jubilees amplifies the commandments given to Moses, insisting that these laws were not introduced at Mount Sinai for the first time, but were established at the very beginning of time. According to the text, the law was written on heavenly tablets and revealed progressively throughout history. Adam, Noah, Abraham, and other patriarchs are depicted as faithful keepers of these pre-existing commandments, reinforcing the idea that the law is woven into the very fabric of creation. This portrayal strengthens the claim that divine law is timeless and not limited by historical or cultural context. One of the most striking assertions found in Jubilees is that even angels are subject to the Mosaic law. This extension of legal obligation beyond humanity is a radical concept, emphasizing that divine justice operates on a cosmic scale. By presenting the law as binding for both earthly and heavenly beings, the book underscores its vision of a universe governed by strict, unchanging principles. There is no room for deviation, and obedience is portrayed as the highest virtue, ensuring harmony between heaven and earth. This rigid legalism reflects a worldview in which purity, righteousness, and covenant loyalty are paramount. Every aspect of life, from dietary practices to festival observances, is meticulously detailed and regulated. Jubilees goes beyond the requirements outlined in the Pentateuch, offering interpretations and expansions that leave little ambiguity. In this system, faithfulness is measured by exact adherence to the law, and any departure is seen as a serious breach of divine order. The insistence on strict legal observance presented a significant challenge to emerging theological frameworks, particularly within early Christianity. As the Christian movement began to emphasize grace, forgiveness, and the transformative power of faith, the hyper-legalism of Jubilees stood in stark contrast. Where Christianity offered a message of liberation from the burdens of the law, Jubilees reinforced the law's eternal and inescapable demands. This divergence highlighted a fundamental tension between two visions of the divine-human relationship, one grounded in grace and renewal, the other in unwavering obedience and legal precision. For religious authorities navigating these evolving landscapes, the extreme legalism of Jubilees may have seemed too inflexible and too tightly bound to an earlier covenantal mindset. Its portrayal of a world where the law governs every detail of existence left little room for the kind of spiritual reinterpretation that became essential as religious traditions developed and expanded. The book's uncompromising stance likely contributed to its marginalization, as it did not fit comfortably within the broader narratives of theological growth and adaptation. By examining the legal framework of the Book of Jubilees, we encounter a vision of faith that is deeply rooted in duty and precision. It presents a universe where divine law is the ultimate authority, unchanging and universally binding, reflecting a spiritual philosophy that values order, discipline, and unwavering commitment above all else. The fate of the Book of Jubilees was shaped as much by religious politics as by its content. In the formative centuries of Rabbinic Judaism and early Christianity, decisions about which texts belonged to the sacred canon and which did not were both theological and strategic. Within this process, the Book of Jubilees found itself increasingly sidelined, despite its deep engagement with foundational biblical themes. During the rabbinic period, Jewish scholars and religious leaders were engaged in the careful task of defining orthodoxy. The traumatic events of the destruction of the Second Temple and the subsequent shifts in religious life made this a period of intense consolidation. Texts that were perceived as too speculative, too divergent in their teachings, or too closely tied to sectarian movements faced growing skepticism. The Book of Jubilees, with its rigid calendar, its mystical angelology, and its uncompromising legalism, did not fit easily within the emerging rabbinic framework. As Rabbinic Judaism solidified its theological core, focusing on the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, Jubilees was quietly excluded, regarded as valuable by some, but not authoritative for the community as a whole. This exclusion was not instantaneous, but gradual. For a time, Jubilees circulated among certain Jewish groups, especially those with sectarian leanings, who saw in it a reaffirmation of their own distinct beliefs. Yet as rabbinic consensus grew stronger, these fringe groups and their favored texts lost standing. The Book of Jubilees, once a contender for spiritual authority, became a relic of a past that no longer aligned with mainstream Jewish identity. A parallel story unfolded within early Christianity. The first centuries of the Christian Church were marked by debates over doctrine and the boundaries of acceptable belief. Councils and influential theologians worked to establish a canon that would define the faith and guard against heresy. Although Jubilees shared significant content with canonical texts and was known to early Christians, it soon came to be viewed with suspicion. Its strong emphasis on the law was at odds with the growing Christian focus on grace, and its mystical elements made it seem out of step with the emerging orthodoxy. Church councils and prominent Christian thinkers gradually distanced themselves from the Book of Jubilees. While it was never formally condemned in the same way as some heretical writings, it was quietly set aside. It did not appear on the lists of approved scriptures and was overshadowed by texts that were seen as more directly supportive of core Christian doctrines. Its voice, once part of the larger biblical conversation, grew fainter with each passing generation. The rejection of Jubilees was shaped by more than just its content. It reflected broader concerns about unity, identity, and control. Both Jewish and Christian authorities sought to create clear and cohesive canons that would serve as the bedrock of faith communities. Texts that complicated this vision, especially those that introduced alternative chronologies, legal systems, or cosmologies, were often deemed too risky to include. In the end, the Book of Jubilees faded from public religious life, remembered by scholars and preserved in scattered manuscripts, but largely absent from the spiritual imagination of the mainstream. Its descent into obscurity serves as a reminder of how the boundaries of sacred scripture are not fixed by divine decree alone, but are also shaped by human decisions, debates, and the ever-changing tides of history. For centuries, the Book of Jubilees remained on the fringes of religious scholarship, known mostly through fragmented translations and scattered references. Its marginal status seemed all but sealed until a remarkable discovery in the mid-20th century shifted the conversation. In the arid caves of Qumran, near the Dead Sea, a collection of ancient manuscripts was uncovered that would become known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among these scrolls, the Book of Jubilees was not only present, but prominently featured, opening a new chapter in its complex history. The discovery was astonishing in its scope and significance. The Dead Sea Scrolls contained copies of nearly every book of the Hebrew Bible, along with numerous other writings that shed light on the beliefs and practices of the Qumran community, widely believed to be the Essenes. The presence of Jubilees among these texts was particularly striking. Multiple fragments and nearly complete copies were found, suggesting that the Essenes held the book in high regard and considered it authoritative, perhaps even on par with the canonical scriptures. This reverence for Jubilees within the Qumran community pointed to its once prominent role in certain Jewish sects. The Essenes, known for their strict observance of the law and their distinctive worldview, found in Jubilees a text that echoed and reinforced their own beliefs. Its strict calendar, its focus on angelic mediators, and its unwavering commitment to legal purity aligned closely with their vision of a faithful covenant-keeping community. For the Essenes, Jubilees was not a marginal or questionable work. It was a guiding text that helped define their identity and mission. The Qumran discovery reignited scholarly interest in the Book of Jubilees and raised important questions about its place in ancient religious thought. If a group as meticulous and devout as the Essenes viewed the book as sacred, what did that imply about its original status? Could it have once held a position closer to mainstream authority before being pushed aside? These questions challenged long-held assumptions about the formation of the biblical canon and the diversity of religious expression within Second Temple Judaism. Moreover, the presence of Jubilees among the Dead Sea Scrolls provided valuable insights into the broader religious landscape of the time. It highlighted the existence of multiple, sometimes competing, understandings of what constituted sacred scripture. While Rabbinic Judaism moved toward a more narrowly defined canon, groups like the Essenes preserved a wider array of texts, reflecting a vibrant and contested spiritual environment. The discovery also underscored the resilience of Jubilees. Even after its marginalization by mainstream Judaism and Christianity, the book continued to live within communities that valued its message. The Essenes' commitment to preserving Jubilees ensured that it survived in written form, hidden away in caves, until the modern era brought it back into the light. The Qumran connection has since become a key focal point for anyone studying the Book of Jubilees. It offers not only evidence of the book's historical significance, but also a reminder of how texts can be embraced, forgotten and rediscovered in ways that reshape our understanding of the past. The survival of Jubilees among the Dead Sea Scrolls stands as a testament to the enduring power of sacred writings and the complexities of their journeys through history. The story of the Book of Jubilees cannot be fully understood without looking beyond its content to the broader dynamics that shaped the religious world in which it circulated. The fate of this ancient text, like that of many others, was not decided in isolation by pure theological reflection. It was deeply intertwined with questions of authority, power, and control. The process of determining which writings would become canon and which would be left behind was as much about maintaining unity and influence as it was about spiritual truth. Religious communities in both Judaism and Christianity faced the challenge of defining their identities, particularly in periods of crisis or transformation. As rival sects emerged, each offering different interpretations of sacred history and doctrine, the need for a clear and cohesive set of scriptures became urgent. The creation of a canon was in part a way to draw boundaries, distinguishing insiders from outsiders, orthodoxy from heresy. In this context, texts like the Book of Jubilees, which proposed alternative timelines, legal systems, and cosmologies, posed a threat to that fragile cohesion. Political motives often played a hidden but powerful role in these decisions. Religious leaders were not only guardians of faith, but also stewards of social and political stability. A unified set of beliefs and practices helped solidify communal identity and prevent fragmentation. Including a text that diverged too sharply from accepted norms risked undermining that unity. The strict calendar of Jubilees, its emphasis on angelic hierarchies, and its hyper-legalism may have aligned with certain factions, but it also highlighted the fractures within the broader faith communities. Sectarian rivalry further complicated the picture. Different groups, from the Essenes to early Christian sects, claimed authority based on their adherence to particular texts and traditions. The presence of Jubilees within the Qumran community's library, for example, signaled not just theological alignment, but also a form of resistance to rabbinic authority. For mainstream Judaism and emerging Christian orthodoxy, embracing Jubilees would have meant validating the claims of these rival groups, a move that could have weakened their own positions of influence. In addition, the consolidation of religious power required a measure of control over narrative and memory. Canonical scriptures became the official record of God's dealings with humanity, shaping not only worship and doctrine, but also cultural and historical identity. Texts that introduced competing visions or unsettled established timelines complicated this project. The Book of Jubilees, with its bold reinterpretations, disrupted the neat, linear narrative that religious leaders sought to present. Suppressing or sidelining it helped maintain a more stable and unified scriptural tradition. The fate of Jubilees serves as a case study in how sacred texts are never just about the words they contain. They are embedded in systems of authority, shaped by political necessities and social realities. Decisions about what to include in the canon often reflected pragmatic considerations, balancing spiritual ideals with the practical needs of governing religious communities. Through this lens, the exclusion of the Book of Jubilees appears not merely as a rejection of its content, but as a strategic move within a larger contest for religious legitimacy and power. Its marginalization was part of the broader effort to define and secure a unified faith, a process that required difficult choices and sometimes the silencing of voices that did not fit the prevailing vision. Although the Book of Jubilees was pushed to the margins of religious history for many centuries, its voice has never been entirely silenced. In modern times, this ancient text has experienced a resurgence of interest, both within scholarly circles and among various religious movements. Its re-emergence highlights the enduring power of sacred writings and the ways in which their messages can find new relevance in changing contexts. One of the most significant developments has been the attention given to Jubilees by biblical scholars and historians. The discovery of its manuscripts among the Dead Sea Scrolls provided fresh material for study and ignited debates about its place in the landscape of Second Temple Judaism. Researchers have explored its contributions to understanding Jewish law, calendar systems, and theological concepts, viewing it as a valuable key to unlocking the mindset and practices of ancient religious communities. Academic conferences and journal articles continue to revisit its themes, affirming its importance even outside the bounds of official canon. In the realm of theology, Jubilees has also attracted the interest of those seeking deeper insights into the roots of biblical tradition. Its unique portrayal of time, law, and angelic mediation offers alternative perspectives that challenge and enrich contemporary interpretations. Some theologians have examined its emphasis on covenant faithfulness and divine order as a way to explore questions about the nature of sacred law and humanity's relationship with God. By revisiting Jubilees, they open doors to broader conversations about scriptural authority and the diversity of early religious thought. Beyond academic and theological circles, the Book of Jubilees has found resonance in various fringe religious movements and alternative spiritualities. Groups interested in recovering ancient wisdom or reconnecting with what they see as the purer forms of biblical faith have sometimes turned to Jubilees as a source of guidance and inspiration. Its detailed laws, precise calendar, and mystical elements appeal to those who seek structure and hidden knowledge in their spiritual practice. For some, Jubilees represents a bridge to a forgotten era, a touchstone for reclaiming what they believe mainstream traditions have lost. The influence of Jubilees has even reached into literature and popular culture, where its themes occasionally surface in novels, essays, and discussions about apocalyptic visions or angelic lore. Writers drawn to its rich imagery and cosmic scope have found in it a wellspring of ideas that speak to enduring human questions about time, justice, and the divine. Although often subtle, these echoes remind us that ancient texts continue to shape imagination and thought in ways that transcend formal religious boundaries. The renewed interest in the Book of Jubilees reflects a broader cultural movement toward re-examining long-forgotten or suppressed texts. In an age where information is more accessible than ever, seekers and scholars alike are drawn to the margins, exploring writings that were once deemed too controversial or complex for mainstream inclusion. Jubilees stands as a symbol of this curiosity, a testament to the idea that no text is ever fully lost as long as its questions and visions still resonate. In revisiting the Book of Jubilees today, people are not merely looking backward. They are engaging in a dialogue across time, allowing ancient voices to inform present understanding and inspire new pathways of thought. Its lingering influence serves as a reminder that sacred texts live on, not only in official canons, but also in the hearts and minds of those who continue to seek wisdom wherever it may be found. The concealment of the Book of Jubilees raises a question that goes beyond history and theology, touching on the deeper mysteries of divine purpose. Was its disappearance from mainstream religious life simply the result of human politics, shifting doctrines, and sectarian struggles? Or was there something more at work, something that hints at a deliberate act of concealment within a larger divine design? Many who reflect on the history of Jubilees are struck by the precision of its disappearance and re-emergence. For centuries, it was preserved quietly out of the public eye, yet never fully lost. Its survival in the caves of Qumran, hidden away until the modern era, seems almost too precise to be accidental. This pattern evokes the sense that certain revelations are brought to light only when the time is right, aligning with a purpose that transcends human understanding. In spiritual traditions, the concept of concealed wisdom is not unfamiliar. There are beliefs that some truths are kept hidden until humanity is ready to receive them, ensuring that sacred knowledge is neither squandered nor misused. The notion of divine timing appears throughout Scripture, reminding us that there is a season for every purpose under heaven, as seen in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1. Could it be that the Book of Jubilees was veiled for just such a reason, awaiting a moment when its messages could be understood with fresh eyes and deeper discernment? The book itself, with its themes of cycles and divine order, seems to echo this idea. Its strict chronology, its focus on Jubilee periods, and its portrayal of history as a series of preordained events suggest a worldview where nothing happens by chance. If time unfolds according to God's precise plan, as Jubilees insists, then its own journey, from prominence to obscurity to rediscovery, might be part of that same divine orchestration. Some spiritual thinkers propose that the rediscovery of Jubilees in the 20th century was more than a historical accident. At a time when humanity faces complex moral and existential questions, ancient texts like Jubilees challenge modern readers to reconsider foundational truths. Its emphasis on law, order, and cosmic justice can be seen as a timely call to reflection, urging a return to principles that ground spiritual and communal life. On a more personal level, the hiddenness of Jubilees invites contemplation about the nature of revelation itself. Why are certain insights given to some generations and withheld from others? Why do certain voices, like that of Jubilees, fall silent for centuries, only to speak again in a different age? These questions lead to the heart of the mystery of divine wisdom, a wisdom that often moves in ways that defy easy explanation. The case of the Book of Jubilees serves as a reminder that sacred history is not just about what is seen and known, but also about what remains hidden and awaits rediscovery. It challenges readers to trust in a divine order that may be obscured for a time, but is never absent. Whether viewed as a casualty of human politics or as part of a larger sacred pattern, its story invites ongoing reflection on how and when divine truths are revealed. The journey of the Book of Jubilees offers a vivid portrait of how sacred texts can rise to prominence, fall into obscurity, and eventually re-emerge to capture fresh attention. Its story is one of resilience and complexity, shaped by theological debates, political motives, and the shifting landscapes of religious authority. From its beginnings as a bold reinterpretation of biblical history to its status as a revered text among the Essenes, and later its long concealment, Jubilees stands as a testament to the dynamic and often unpredictable nature of Scripture. We have seen how Jubilees reimagined the framework of sacred time through its 364-day calendar and cycles of Jubilee years, presenting a vision of history that emphasized order, justice, and divine precision. Its angelology and cosmic revelations opened windows into a universe alive with spiritual forces and hidden wisdom, offering insights that stretched the boundaries of accepted orthodoxy. At the same time, its unwavering commitment to the Mosaic law revealed a deep conviction that divine commands are not negotiable but are eternally binding, even on the heavenly hosts. The rejection of Jubilees by both Rabbinic Judaism and early Christian councils underscored the intricate dance between faith and power. Decisions about canon and orthodoxy were often influenced by a desire for unity and control, sidelining texts that posed challenges or introduced alternative visions. The rediscovery of Jubilees among the Dead Sea Scrolls not only reignited scholarly interest, but also reminded the world that even forgotten voices have a way of returning when the time is right. This story invites us to reflect on larger questions about the nature of truth and the formation of sacred tradition. What determines which texts are deemed worthy of inclusion and which are set aside? How do historical, cultural, and political forces shape what is remembered and what is forgotten? The case of Jubilees challenges the notion that the biblical canon is the final word on divine revelation, suggesting instead that spiritual wisdom can be multifaceted, layered, and sometimes hidden from view for reasons that may only become clear with time. As we consider the echoes of Jubilees in modern theology, literature, and spiritual exploration, we are reminded that the search for divine wisdom is ongoing. No text, however ancient or marginalized, is beyond the reach of renewed understanding. The reappearance of Jubilees in contemporary discourse serves as both a historical curiosity and a spiritual invitation, an opportunity to listen once more to a voice that, though lost for a time, continues to speak. In the end, the journey of the Book of Jubilees is a powerful example of how sacred writings live on, shaped by the hands of history, but also by the enduring hunger for truth. Its path from prominence to silence and back again encourages us to remain open to the mysteries of revelation and to the possibility that wisdom, no matter how deeply buried, will find its way to the surface when it is needed most. Thank you for joining this exploration of the Book of Jubilees and its remarkable journey through history. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss new content on fascinating topics like this one. Please give the video a like to support the work, and feel free to share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. I would love to hear your perspective. And if you think someone close to you would appreciate this deep dive into sacred history, share the video with them as well. Your support helps keep these important conversations alive.